meeting to order for December 12th, 2018. Please rise for the pledge of the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Scott.
Present
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Here.
Sinkwitz.
Here.
Federal.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Duff.
Here.
Here.
Okay, I don't believe we have any correspondence,
I'll just take that one.
and I don't believe we have any additions to business. So, next item is first call to the public. And let's see if there's anybody that wants to speak. We hardly have any public here, so.
There's a lot of cars in the park.
Doesn't appear that anybody wants to speak on the first call to the public in public here, so we'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda.
Motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda by Mr. Duff.
Second.
Second by Mr. Malik. Any discussion? Roll call vote.
York.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Federal.
Yes.
Hunt.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
That moves down to public hearings. I don't believe we have public hearings. So we're on new business. Recommendations
moving.
from the Park and Rec Board for, first one is reappoint Kendra Zunick
Yes.
for the Park Board for term expiring 12/31 of 21.
Kendra Zunick and Glory Longbreak.
Yep,
Can we do both of those?
you probably could.
Is that in a motion?
As a motion, yes.
I'll second that.
Okay, and the second one was to reappoint Lori Longbreak for term expiring 12/31 of 21. So
Yes,
that was a motion by Dumont, second by Duff to reappoint both those two.
correct.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we're all set there. Motion carries. Next one is recommendation to request council release budgeted funds for Snacks with Santa, which was last weekend, I believe.
I make that motion?
Second.
Okay, motion by Scott, second by Malik to release budgeted funds. Roll call vote, please.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Federal.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
He said yes.
Okay, I didn't hear.
yeah, I thought,
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
yes.
Okay, thank you. Recommendation from the Water Management Board. That's, first one is to, item one is to reappoint Ethel Hurst to
I'll make the-
the ward for 12/31 of 21, and then we also have recommendation to reappoint Doug Nye for the same term, 12/31/21. So,
President, I'll make the motion to reappoint both Mr. Hurst and Mr. Nye.
Second.
okay, motion by Scott, second by Sikowitz. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And next on the Water Board is recommendation to approve lake classes for the Water Management Board members at a cost not to exceed $500.
Yeah, I just actually,
Saw it.
did you see the email? Yeah. Yeah, hit the phone at about 6:45 as I walk in the door. It's been offered many times over. I know that Michael Sargent took it, actually Nathan Bird took it. It's a class offered by the Michigan State University Extension School, and it concerns lakes and lake information. It really digs fairly deep. It is 26 sections, I believe, over 6 weeks is the total course. And when I presented it to the board, every member of the board decided to go after it. It's
Good.
$95 a piece, and I confirmed the enrollment before, as I said, I entered into the council chambers here. So I'd like to
Where's it at,
make that
John?
motion. It's online. It's offered twice a year,
Oh, cool.
and there's still some room. If you want to get on it, I can send you the link. It's, I think it starts on February 3rd, 5th, something. Anyways, I'll make a motion to seek council approval of, it's actually $475 will be the cost for those members.
Second.
Okay, that's a motion by Mr. Scott, second by Mr. Sinkowitz.
Do we want to keep it at the way it's in our agenda, not to exceed $500? Just in case you get a change or something, or there's an expense factor?
Actually, that's the gross cost. We all wanted to get in under the deadline of midnight last night, Bob, because it went down. Special enrollment was 95 versus 115. So.
All right.
So we can leave it at not to exceed.
And I believe that was, we have some training funds available for water board.
Yes, they are budgeted funds.
Yep. So, any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Metro.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
And I just want to say, I think that's great. Because I think it's excellent.
Yeah,
to have,
I-
you know, we talked about having some of the boards and commissions trained, you know, get some training, so
I think,
great for the water board to step up.
see if we can't recommend it as a course that new members might want to take as they join the board. Too. Okay.
Okay, next one is update on the status of the lake consultant services request for proposals.
All right. We received 2 proposals on the RFP, one from our current lake consultant and another one from a consultant over in the west side of Michigan, although Paul is on the west side of Michigan. He drives in from Grand Rapids. The board opened them, they looked at them. They're very close in cost. But there is, the board decided to, since there isn't a hyper time frame, to study the proposals and make a decision at the next meeting.
Okay. So at this point, we really have no action we need to take on.
There isn't any action, I just wanted an update. There was some questions
So,
about it.
just out of curiosity, where did they fall based upon last contract?
Actually, that was a lot of the reasons why we went out for the RFP. We had seen some continuous increasing costs, more in line with, I guess, that issue was also there was additional charges that kept building. We had deep discussions. Paul was there. The other person who submitted the bid was not there. That's why we want to talk to her. But he said that we would not see, which turned out to be, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Michael, I think the total additional cost was something in the arena of about $17,000, wasn't it, over 5 years?
Most of those were specifically devoted to study of aeration.
Yeah,
That was recommended by the board.
okay. Well, he said that there was some of them was also some additional requests that the board had done. 6,000 of that. I mean, at any rate, we were assured from that one individual, their current individual, that we wouldn't see any additional cost. The GPS coordinations and all of the things that we had asked for are now in place. So we'll see if that
Is
comes
there a
through.
possibility that a council members can get a copy of these 2
RFPs?
and look at them?
I don't see any reason why not. I mean, I will leave that to the current administrator to make a more,
Yeah,
Succinct
absent any
decision.
objection, I can make them available, sure.
yeah.
Yeah. At least we know what we're comparing.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
that,
the services are fairly stringently outlined. So,
There's nobody from this side of the state, though, eh?
we sent out, I think Nathan sent out 5, and only 2 responded.
I think we got one.
Remember, we only, were looking for limnologists. We eliminated all firms that had within their capabilities any kind of permitting or licensing to use harvesting or to apply chemicals, because we think it's a conflict of interest. And we've had good success with that over the last 5 years, actually.
Okay. Moving on, discussion on attendance at a special topics meeting for the homeowners association, legal exposures regarding lots and village obligations, restrictions to the residents, preparing regarding water management. So I was at that meeting for the water board
Yeah.
when you kind of discussed that.
Yeah, the board set up a sequence of meeting topics. We've had a topical meeting and discussion on the canals and the control of buildup of muck in the canals. We are reporting back to what we hope is an assemblage of residents who live on or near the canal and are affected by that. I think, well, you were at the meeting,
Yep,
weren't you?
I was at the meeting.
Okay. And there's a letter going out to remind them that we need to have some more people step forward. We then next, well, our last meeting was basically another discussionary topic, one that's coming up soon, and it seems, it is a result of people coming into the audience. They're asking questions about the legal obligations of the village, which you've already addressed, and we pointed to that summary letter, which is on the website, regarding the relationships of edge of water, control of water, and et cetera. But the other questions that were coming up, and when I was the chair of the board, we did this, we invited an attorney in who was familiar with HOA issues and outlot issues to just have a general open discussion between the community and the board, so they had a better understanding of what their exposures were. One of the topics, I mean, the questions always is, if something happens on our outlots, do we have any exposure? How do we prevent that? And I mean, it's not that complicated of a subject. I asked Nathan, I don't know if he asked you, whether or not you could attend that meeting on
We
behalf,
talked
not
a little bit.
representing the village,
Yeah.
but more to be,
Facilitator.
yeah,
Yeah.
to a facilitator on it, and let the community do that. The last time we had this, we sent out invitations to the presidents or members of the associations. I think we had over 40 people come in, because they were all curious, what's gonna go on if somebody injures themselves in front of my house, but it's in the water? Am I responsible? You know, those kind of questions, so.
No,
Well,
it's
even
just-
more importantly is the outlots that don't really have an association.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
And then, then the people that are deeded to those lots have the exposure, and a lot of those people have changed residency, so the new people coming in might not even realize that they've got that exposure.
It's like a lot of people didn't realize that they bought a house on a septic field in our community, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff, yeah. So.
No, it's just basically for things like erosion and
We've already had one discussion on erosion, and we're in communication with Oakland County's Lakes Level Management Group, and we're trying to get somebody to come in and have a discussion about erosion and what causes erosion. We know some of the reasons, but so erosion, questions on the
Liability.
canal, questions on the liability issues, and to be quite honest with you, there's two other topics that are further out in the spring that we're still working on. So I guess the request is it possible for council to approve the utilization of our attorney as the moderator of that? Do we need to have council approve that? I'm not sure. There's gonna be a cost involved, but it's just an invitational thing. And it'll probably be in our March meeting.
Is there like a special consultant's fee or anything in the water board budget, Mike?
there's not, no.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess what I'm curious about is we've had so many discussions on road endings and lake lots and all that other stuff. Is this what we're gonna be redoing again?
We haven't had that discussion at the Water Management Board with,
What we have here on council,
I understand
Those are,
that.
those are village road endings, right? I mean,
Yeah,
this is
those are
a whole
village
different
road
subject.
endings, yeah. Well,
And
this
So-
is really,
it's lake access lots.
yeah.
Common lots.
Yeah.
Oh,
They're
okay.
common lots, yeah. It's a general discussion. At the end of the day, you need to carry excess homeowner liability insurance. At the end of the day, if you are a member of the association, you need to have some form of E&O to cover your actions. At the end of the day, the question, what seems to always arise, if it's on your property, it's your game. If it's not on your property, It's somebody else's game.
For some of us who've been here for quite a while, Frigates Bar had a patron who was extremely intoxicated and walked out on that long dock, because Walled Lake, your docks are all long, and dove in and broke his neck and was paralyzed for life. And the association president and all its members were in court for quite a while. I don't know whose responsibility or who paid for it, but that was a long, ugly legal battle.
Well, I guess, would it make sense to send out an email to the association and try to find out how much interest there might be in a meeting?
Yeah,
like
we're gonna
that?
do that prior to actually having the meeting.
Right.
We've had good results so far, but, you know.
I would say if there's
Things
enough
could
interest, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be prudent to do. Anybody else have any thoughts?
And then the water board is participating in that meeting as well.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. It'll be at one of our meetings.
Okay.
Yeah. It tends to be a topic that floats up into our meeting anyways.
Right.
And that'd probably be a good topic to hit,
Yeah.
February or March.
Mhm. I don't
When
know if
voting
the chief
season
would wanna
starts.
get involved. I don't think you have a reason to there, chief.
I don't necessarily think I need to. but
Okay.
if you feel I need to be there.
Well, I can find a reason.
Well, we'll develop it further, and then we'll get in touch with everybody. Just wanted to give a little heads up.
Yeah, I guess maybe just send an email out and see what kind of interest there is and bring it back and go from there. Sound fair?
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. Recommendations from ZBA to reappoint Angie Crawford for term expiring 12/31/21.
So she took a spot of somebody that had resigned.
Mhm.
So it was a short-term position last time. We ended up re-upping her because she still had interest. She actually had only been to one meeting. So I'll make a motion that we reappoint Angie Crawford to the ZBA with a term expiring 12/31/21.
Second.
Motion by Dumont, second by,
No,
motion by Duff, second by Dumont. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Recommendation from Engineer Powell to pay A&R seal coating, crack sealing, the amount of $10,199.84.
Thank you, Council. This is fairly easy. The A&R seal coating went through the village this fall and seal coated all the roadways, starting with the most recent pavements first and then worked their way counterclockwise around the village. These are in budgeted funds for major and minor roads. This is an extremely worthwhile program in that in the fall of each year, we seal up any cracks that occur in the roadways so that the rain and snow melt during the wintertime, that it can't drop down into the sub-base of the road. Freeze thaw, of course, that's what breaks the roads up and creates big potholes, and so it's a way to really increase the longevity of our roads. And so I'm recommending that council pay A&R at a cost of $10,199.84.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Dumont, second by Singlets, I guess. Any discussion?
Mike, did they get pretty much through the whole village before they ran out?
They did not. They got all the way through Spring Lake Heights and started on the southern part of the village, and we did not have enough funds to be able to continue. So next year, I think during the budgeting operation, I think the treasurer and I will discuss the possibility of upping those a little bit. Now that we're doing a lot of paving in the village, we have a lot newer roads, and we want to make sure that all of those are sealed.
Yep.
So I think we'll ask to have those funds increased next year.
Anything else?
Yeah, I have a, Mike, you say they got like through Spring Lake Heights and other parts. What do you figure they did, 20-30% of the village, you know?
Pretty close to 50% of the
Oh, all
village.
right.
Correct.
All right.
Yep. Mr. Malik, we start on Tampa and Oak Island, and we work our way counterclockwise around the village, so
Okay.
that's just about halfway.
Yeah, well, the reason I asked that, because if we got 50%, that means next year's cost could be somewhere in the $20,000.
In that range, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Roll call vote, please.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Allen.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Medrow.
Yes. And then we've got the grinder pump purchase.
This item is a little bit more complicated, and I wanted to explain it to council. Every year, about January 1, the cost of the grinder pumps the cost goes up per the manufacturer. We have a local distributor down in the Plymouth area, and normally Commerce Township and the village participate in a truckload. As you can see by the documents that I passed out to you, there is a tremendous difference in cost between a truckload. Not only do they give us a large reduction, almost over $1,000 a unit to order an entire truckload, but they cover the cost of the freight as well. So if you get less than that truckload, which is 59 units, the cost is $4,100 a unit instead of $3,100 a unit. This particular year, Commerce Township still has 50 left over in their stock. The village has 8 left over, and we have 8 proposals out to residents for those 8 units. So we really have no additional grinder pumps left in stock. Commerce Township has always been willing in the past to sell the village some of their stock to keep the village going, because neither Commerce nor the village want to have someone that wants to tie in have to wait to tie in, especially in emergency situations. In this particular case, because Commerce does require the village to pay the latest cost as to what it would take them to replace them, and that's kind of logical from their standpoint. I then researched to find out what it would cost for the village to purchase a truckload themselves. And as you can see, the data there, it makes at least some financial sense to order an entire truckload. Commerce has agreed to house them still over at the wastewater treatment plant, so they're all indoors. And that allows we, as your engineers, to work with the residents as they come in. We deliver the grinder pumps. We first of all, so that those of you, and I don't know if Mr. York knows the process, when someone wants to connect into the sanitary sewer, they come into the village, pay a small fee to have us go out and meet with them personally to make sure that they know what's involved, the costs, precisely where their grinder pump might want to be. Then we design a drawing, and we quote that drawing based upon our contract with the underground contractor, the installer. We then send that drawing and the quotes to the contractor himself to make sure that there's nothing that we didn't see properly, and he goes out and evaluates it as well. And so we have checks and double checks. Then we, once the owner knows the cost, he comes in and pays the fees necessary. We then coordinate the contractor to come in and actually install that grinder pump, and we coordinate that with the owner, making sure that they know when they're going to be there, so that they know that they're going to be out without water, without grinder pump service, or without sewer service for a day. So that being said, we kind of are the quarterback to this. This is a little bit more complicated in that just before the meeting, Commerce Township engineer called and said that they would be interested in sharing a truckload with the village. So it's kind of up to the council whether or not you want an entire truckload for yourself, you want to split some with Commerce Township, whatever number we don't, the council doesn't want to have, Commerce will buy the balance of the truckload from us. So that being said, it's kind of a discussion that we need to have with council.
Well, I guess how many people are going to be
That's a great question.
anticipating to be, hooking up in the next 6
I'll
months?
probably be one.
Council, the village has about 20 to 25 a year connect. So we figure a truckload is probably a little over 2-year stock for the village.
The treasurer is present, isn't he?
Mhm.
I know our administrator is. Mike, it's just, anything, the 182, does that have any real influence on our budget?
Actually, no. Not to be technical, but we just simply add it to inventory.
Inventory for-
Exactly.
Okay,
And so it's sort of like,
It comes out of the water and sewer fund, right? Yeah.
got it.
I think the majority of people who are going to connect on LA4, which is our last special assessment district, we're better than half at this point, aren't we?
My opinion would be,
They were
we're
about
getting
30.
such a good deal. We have a place to keep them, get them, and if Commerce comes up short, we'll do the switching as
Yeah,
well.
help them out.
Yeah,
How many are in a truckload?
59 units in a truckload. I do want to point out, there is another quote on there, and this.
That was for the cables.
For the cables, keep
Right.
in mind that when we go out and meet with people, if the grinder pump isn't within 50 feet of where they're going to connect into the electrical system in their home, we need additional length cables, and they're pre-made, pre-wired cables. And therefore, we're asking for 3 100-footer cables, 3 75-foot cables. And then the village is one of the only communities that does this. Council has always made it an effort to provide the option for residents to have a grinder pump with a generator receptacle on their control panel. That means if the electricity goes out, a normal 4,100 watt generator can be plugged into that, and it operates their grinder pump even in a power outage. I'm going to say about 5-10% of the people typically want that option, and so we're recommending 6 of those control panels be obtained as well.
Do we have any in stock now?
We have 2 in stock right now, correct. I'm sorry, we have 1 of each of the cables and 2 generator
Well,
receptacles.
The reason I ask, you say you have 8 people that are interested right now.
Yes.
Those, have you discussed with those people? Are they interested in
We've
the
discussed with
generator?
them, but they have not given us their decision whether they want
Well,
generator
my only point
receptacle.
being, if you go for 6 and you've got 1, and they all want them, what's it cost to go out and buy an individual? Are we better off buying 8 or 10?
There is no benefit to the village in
Yeah.
a cost savings for these.
For the
These are
electrical.
individually ordered,
All right.
so that's not a problem. That's just more of a stock issue.
Okay.
Is what we're at.
Is the receptacle on the pump itself so that you can put your power generator into the pump only? Wouldn't it run off
No,
your?
we wouldn't want a resident to have to open up the grinder pump
Right.
and
This
get
is
down
on
to
the
those.
box.
It's on the box on your
Oh,
house.
yeah, okay.
It's on a disconnect box.
Yeah.
Right.
I was just gonna say, if you lose your electricity, it's gonna come on anyways, so you don't need, do you need this?
If you lose your electricity, what's going to come on?
Well, if you have a generator, it should pop on.
Right.
Oh, absolutely, and I explained this to people, if they have a whole house generator,
They don't need
Then
it.
they don't need it.
Okay. that's
Or if
why
they
I
have
wanna
a
make sure I'm-
generator that they pick and choose what
Yeah.
circuits they use, then they can flip it back and forth
Of course,
with their own.
yeah.
This is only if they don't have a
Can always
generator,
go-
and
can
they
always
just
go to
borrow
your
one.
neighbor's house.
Right.
Yeah, there's no electricity, you have no water, so I'm trying to figure out what.
Most homes, they use extension cords to run things around, they plug freezers and thing in and out, so there would not be a way to connect the grinder pump
Got-
in when
got
they
it
have
now.
that kind of setup.
Okay.
Council's pleasure, I guess.
I'll make a motion
I
to
mean,
do this. Is that
I
what
thought
we're
I made
looking-
the motion.
Yeah, I thought
Oh,
I made
did
the
you?
motion, yeah.
Okay.
Do we get a second?
To buy and save.
I'll second it.
Well, that was a motion by Sienkiewicz, and
York?
We got to get him on here.
second by York.
It's tough to get a second in there, I'll tell you.
That was for the 59 units, right, Ed?
Right.
At 182,900. And then in addition to that would be the cable supply kits.
As
300,
presented.
the 375s and the 6
As presented.
as presented for a total of 5838.
Yes.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Duff,
Yes.
Mallett,
Yes.
Scott,
Yes,
York,
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Demont.
Yes.
Thank you, council,
Thank you,
very
Mr.
much.
can I ask you a question before you sit down? young man?
Absolutely.
On occasion, I read the road commission booklet that comes into our packet.
It's fantasy.
Must have nothing to do, huh?
It's fantasy.
I just, Two things that I found relatively interesting. They indicate that the Oakland County has gone from having a traffic facility rate higher than either the state or the nation, and within the last 15 years, because of the TIA, which is their traffic safety program, their numbers are now half of the state and national rates for linear road. I thought that was rather interesting. I just thought everybody might want to know that. I don't see many accidents. I don't know that's because we have less drivers. My question was that on the other side, they talked about the strategic planning process that will be occurring with every village, community, township, and city. Are we involved with that? We are.
We
I mean,
are.
I just out of curiosity, what
We are.
is it?
Every year, the road commission actually makes a presentation. They used to come just to the village and made a presentation to the
Okay.
village as to how they can coordinate what they're doing with the village. They've now kind of tied us in with Commerce Township. So we go to the Commerce Township joint meeting, and they let us know what plans they have for improving the roadways around the village and around Commerce Township, and what roads within the village they have plans on working on. We also fill out a survey as to what they've done right, what they've done in the past, and what we might like them to improve upon this year. So yes, we do participate in that.
Okay. I just had never heard about it. I
Yes.
was just curious. Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you. Okay, next one is item E, which is 2018 Citizen of the Year nomination process. I guess, I don't know.
Just that they're due on the 9th,
Due
5
on-
o'clock.
yep, due on
Can be
January
submitted
9th.
by just about anybody, and the idea is that they would in turn be referred to the newly constituted administrative committee.
Is there a form for that, Mike?
There is.
There is.
There is,
It's-
okay.
It's in our packet.
Oh, it's in the packet?
Under item
I guess I didn't
12,
see it.
yes.
12E, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wrong tab.
Along with some of the selection criteria also. So, if anybody has any nominations, please fill it out and get it in by January 9th. I think that's probably all we need to say on that item. So. Item F is expenditure approval for codification ordinances and charter amendments not to exceed $2,500. And this is basically something that the ordinance that we have created or changed over the last year, it needs to be recodified. So this essentially comes up on a yearly basis.
Right, which is G in your packet, the ordinance, that's the next item. This is
Right.
to cover the cost of doing that.
So the ordinances that we have dealt with over the last year have been sent out, and they're recodified
Yeah,
in
that's-
ordinance fashion. And in our packets, we get the new updated itemized printing, so
Right.
that's essentially what these costs are for, so. Anybody have any questions on that one? So I guess we'll accept a motion to,
This will be the end of it?
This year,
for this year. Yeah.
you do this every
You
year.
need
It's
a
done on a
motion?
calendar year basis, isn't it?
You need a motion for that 2,500?
Yeah, that'd be great.
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, motion by Mr. Alec.
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Scott. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Malik?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes.
York?
Yes.
Sinkowitz?
Yes.
Renzo?
Yes.
Dumont?
Yes.
Stock?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving right along to ordinances. We got the introduction of ordinance 139A5, which is to approve the editing and inclusion of certain ordinances as parts of the codified ordinances for the village of Wolverine Lake. So,
So this is what gets sent to American Legal Publishing, so that they can codify all of these ordinances that have been adopted since April of 2017.
mhm. So all we need to do is, we're
You're
introducing
introducing,
it
yes.
tonight, right, so. I guess just a motion to introduce this ordinance.
Make a motion to introduce.
Second.
Okay, we'll give that one to Mr. York. And second by Mr. Sekowitz. Sorry, Dave. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries on that one. Next one, we have a discussion on proposal 18-1, which is the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act and opt-out ordinance. So I guess Jennifer, you could probably handle that one.
Yep.
Off the get-go here.
Needed
Okay.
an executive summary for that one.
So you're all aware, on November 6th, Michigan voters approved Proposal 18-1, which is the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act. The highlights of it is that it allows individuals aged 21 and older to purchase, possess, and use marijuana and marijuana-infused edibles, and grow up to 12 marijuana plants for personal consumption. It imposes a 10-ounce limit for marijuana kept at residences and requires that amounts over 2.5 ounces be in secured locked containers. Creates a state licensing system for marijuana businesses, including growers, processors, transporters, and retailers, with the caveat that the LARA, which is the Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, is responsible for creating that licensing system, and they have not done that yet. They have 12 months to do that. The act permits commercial sales of marijuana and marijuana-infused edibles through state licensed retailers, subject to a new 10% tax earmarked for schools, roads, and municipalities where marijuana businesses are located. And it allows municipalities to ban or restrict marijuana businesses within their borders. So, with the medical marijuana, with the facility regulations that came up about a year ago, I guess, you had to choose to opt in if you wanted to allow those facilities, those medical marijuana facilities in your community. And you have a medical marijuana ordinance in place already that prohibits those types of facilities. So you didn't need to take any action at all in that regard. This functions the opposite of that. If you do not want to allow the recreational marijuana facilities, commercial facilities in your community, then you need to opt out. Now, and that's what this ordinance is here. So tonight, if you decided that's the approach you want to take, you would introduce this ordinance like you just did with the last ordinance. If you opt out now, which is what a lot of communities are doing, because Lara hasn't established any regulations yet, and so none of the communities know what are these facilities going to be required, setbacks, districts, all those questions. And it's going to be a while before that happens. So if you opt out now, you can opt in later. But once you opt in, you can't opt out. So if you choose to opt in now, you're in. So most communities are, the trend is that most communities right now are opting out just to kind of wait and see what Lara's doing.
I would like to make the motion that at this particular time, that we opt out of the new marijuana ordinance.
Well, actually, we're going to introduce the ordinance to opt out, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. But I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Sinkowitz, second by Mr. York. Any other discussion?
Just some quick clarifications. You said that they're not accepting licenses?
Well, as of, what was it, December 1st, I think it was, when it
December
was.
6th.
December 6th, yeah.
Okay, yeah. They haven't established the licensing system yet, but licenses can be submitted.
Yeah,
So,
I was gonna say, as I understand, there's 148 backlog.
Yeah,
Just in
I
growers or
have no
something.
idea how Lara's handling that, because they don't have a system in.
That's the key.
Yeah, they're not,
Right.
they're not even prepared for it,
Right,
and they've
that's the
already
key.
said, go ahead.
I'm sure they anticipated that this was going to
Sure.
pass, and so they must have come up with some kind of game plan. I don't know what that is. They haven't had a real smooth process with the medical marijuana licensing processes, so I don't know what they're gonna do, but you
Okay.
can submit license applications now. They just haven't established any guidelines for that, so.
Well, I do know that when we went through the medical marijuana process and ordinances on planning, there was, the way that regulation was set up, there was gonna be like maybe 2 or 3 small properties that would even be available if there was certain criteria met in the village to be able to put something like that in. So we've got, virtually, we've got a real small retail or an office district anyways. Most of us, around here, it's all residential or multifamily, so. That limits, plus we've got a couple schools and churches, and then there's
Sure.
bars and
Yeah.
other establishments
500 foot,
where
300 foot
that's
rules,
not
all that stuff.
appropriate
Yeah.
to have those facilities, so it probably makes more sense for us to opt out now.
Oh, yeah,
And if
absolutely.
it's deemed somewhere down the road that it might make some sense that we have something, then we could always opt in. So, with that, I
You
guess-
already prohibit them, so the medical marijuana laws are still in effect. This did not impact the medical
Right.
marijuana laws. They're kinda moot now. I mean, people are just gonna go with recreational marijuana. Why do they need a medical marijuana license if they can
There are a
just,
couple of
yeah.
benefits to that, and one of them is the tax part of it,
Mhm.
and the distribution part of it, under the medical compared to the commercial. The commercial tax is what they're calling this.
Higher tax.
It is a higher tax, and it's also, obviously, the medical currently is available where the other one
Right.
isn't. So, I know Wall Lake actually has one that's open and running as of now, because
Mhm.
it was granted a medical dispensary, and they're working on getting to be a commercial. So they have 17 licenses they're handing out for.
Right.
Mhm.
Well, and just
Under-
logistically,
It's
the
gonna be the
medical
drug capital of
marijuana legislation
County.
is
Better
actually,
there than here.
it's not legalizing medical marijuana. It provides an affirmative defense to a charge of unlawful possession or use. You can say, oh, I have a medical marijuana card. That's an affirmative defense. It's not like the recreational marijuana legislation that is saying you can actually legally use these drugs. That's the difference.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why it doesn't really go anywhere.
And currently, the ones that are using it recreationally are getting it from the medical ones that can go buy it now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Right.
because under the current law, there is no way you can go purchase marijuana. You can't, it has to be for sale in a commercial, licensed commercial, and those haven't been established yet. So they are getting around it in a roundabout way. It can be gifted, so,
Mhm.
but
The other part I wanted to bring to your attention is we will need another little ordinance amendment because right now the village code says that marijuana is, prohibits the use or possession of marijuana. This doesn't apply to minors, but, because it's now allowed in Michigan, your code conflicts with state law. So we have to make a little change to that.
Okay. Well, I guess we're back to introducing the ordinance, so we had a motion, we had a second, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Hey, what second call to public, aren't we? Way early.
no, just on time.
Okay. So it's an opportunity for anybody in the public to talk about anything regarding, or not regarding the agenda items. So, anybody in the public, doesn't appear that there's anybody in the public, so I guess we don't need to open or close. So, moving on, Finance Committee Citizen Alternate Appointment. I think Mr. McGee was up for that, so.
Yes, yeah. Sent him a text and said he ought to get a hold of Nathan, or, I don't know who he got a hold of.
You got a hold of Nathan, I
He
believe.
got a hold of Nathan.
And indicated his interest in.
Yeah, and indicated his interest, so I guess I'd make a motion to accept his
Interest?
desire to volunteer to become a, if we need a motion to do that, I don't know, to become the
Well, it'd
alternate.
probably be a
Appoint him on
motion
a
to
committee.
appoint him to, as an
an alternate.
alternate to the Finance Committee, right?
Yep.
So,
Second?
motion by Scott, second by Sinkowitz, to appoint John McGee as an alternate. Any discussion? Wasn't long before he was.
That's what he said. He said it just was,
It's like the Godfather.
Been off a month
Yeah.
now?
1 month.
I'm sure he's watching,
month.
right? Yeah.
I told him he better not bring a downturn in the economy.
Well, yeah. This is just a citizen assistant, right?
Yeah,
So-
he's an
Only if
alternate.
somebody's not there.
Only if
can he
somebody's
come.
not there, exactly. yeah.
He's invited anytime.
So anyways, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion, Opposed, motion is approved. So, welcome, John, again. Recommendations from Police Chief Ellsworth.
I got a couple things here. One of them is a request to purchase 22 TASER training cartridges and 4 power packs not to exceed $920 from budgeted funds. That's just our annual training we have to do with our TASERs, and we do that in the months of January and February, depending, so. But every officer that has a TASER has to discharge 2 cartridges, and so that includes our reserve officers as well, so that should take care of it.
I'll make a motion to purchase the TASER training cartridges at a price not to exceed $920.
Second.
There was a motion by Sequence, second by, we'll give it to Malik.
Okay, I'll take it.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Okay, next one is a request to purchase a new TASER X26P for the department at the cost of $1,183 plus shipping from budgeted funds.
This will get all of the current full-time officers, sans me and the deputy chief, to the new style tasers. The last time we bought 4 of the new X26Ps for the other officers. This will give us another one. We're probably going to end up, we're trying not to buy them all at once. We don't get any more savings. And as they are needed to be replaced, the ones we currently have were from 2004, I believe. So it's time we start replacing these. And this is, they're not getting any cheaper, but it's $1,183 plus shipping. But we did budget for it, so we are planning our budget yearly to do that.
Make a motion that we purchase new tasers, or a new taser, not to exceed $1,183.
Second. Go ahead.
Okay, there was a motion by Duff and second by Malik.
I have a question for you, Chief, before we vote on this. When you see them and the wire goes out and the prongs get them, is there a new cartridge that goes onto the unit? So all that gets thrown away and then another cartridge and you use the same
Correct.
taser?
And they're like $24 a piece per cartridge.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You should try it sometime.
It's,
I've been-
Should try it.
they actually have new ones out that you can shoot 2 different ones. You can shoot one over here and shoot one over here. They're separate cartridges. They're dual cartridges. They're much more expensive, and they're much more expensive to maintain, and a lot more training goes into that. And I don't feel the need, our use for those.
Is there a voltage control on that?
No.
Oh, whenever you
It's-
let it go,
it's all
get
or
ready.
nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Not funny.
Okay,
I had it for fun.
roll call vote, please.
York.
Yes.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Pedro.
Yes.
Dumont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Okay, that one passes. And the last one is request to purchase a new 54-inch Legacy dual red blue overhead light bar for 2018 Tahoe from Canfield Equipment Service for $2269.44 from budgeted funds.
This is something that we're gonna have to start doing as we get new patrol cars. The current overheads that we have, you might not notice it, but we do vehicle inspections every day when we get in our cars. And over the last 6 months, we've had a bulb go out here or there. We're now out 5 bulbs on one light bar. That's the one we're gonna replace. And 3 on another one that we'll replace next year. Those overheads have been worth their weight in gold. We bought those in 2001, I believe. So they've lasted a good long time. And actually Coleman Kendall was here when we bought those, so it might have even been right around
Been on a couple
2000.
vehicles too.
So, and they've been on several vehicles. We changed vehicles, obviously, so it's been through a couple of rotations, but what I'm trying to do is get the same type of overheads for each vehicle, and as we replace them, we will do that. My intent is to put this on the brand-new Tahoe that we have, that I currently drive. It's unmarked. We're going to mark that this spring, and I will turn that over to the guys, and I will take the 2014 Tahoe, which currently has 108,000 miles on it, off the road. I will, and that's the one with the older light bar on it. We will take that off, take some of the bulbs and put it in the other one to make that last another year. And I will probably drive that for a while until we purchase a new vehicle in 2019. But we're definitely, we're setting up a rotation with our vehicles, that it's going to be 3 years in a row, and then we will have a year off before we buy another vehicle. But the way things have worked, 2 years ago we didn't, this year we did, so we skipped 2017, and we got the 2018 Tahoe, which will now be put into a rotation, so the miles will start adding up on that real quick. But overall, I'm going to be looking at different vehicles because I want to get a car this next time. And with General Motors announcing they're doing away with their Impala, that was what I was leaning towards. So we're going to be doing a lot of interesting research to see what
Mustang.
comes out. And we will not be getting a Challenger or a Charger.
Mustang.
No. No Mustang. Unless it's a convertible.
What
for
about
me.
imports? Consider imports.
Maybe you can pick up a 19 at a good price.
Yeah, maybe. I'll go to the car show and we'll look. But that's my plan is when I go to the Chiefs show, the Chiefs conference in February, that's where all the dealers put out their new bid prices on their vehicles. And I see Oakland County are now going to the Ford SUVs. I'm trying to stay away from that.
Didn't those have, didn't those have an issue with exhaust leaks?
They did at one time. That was corrected. What it was the manufacturers, when they were manufacturing, they were leaving some holes in the firewall for wires for the overheads and things to go through, and they weren't being utilized, and so the exhaust from there was actually coming through into but those have been taken care of, so. But overall, we're still doing some testing and finding out what's gonna work best for us, but again, the Tahoes have been great vehicles for us, virtually, very little maintenance. We had one engine go after a certain amount of miles, but we realized most of that was because of the idle time on them, because they idle probably more than they are driven, so. But I'm researching going forward, but we're gonna be in pretty good shape if we get these overheads as we go.
Chief, you just made a statement about idle time. You're talking about when they're out on the road and they're on the side of the road, they're idling?
And back here at the station, most of the time when they're in service.
Just, why do they have to idle back here?
There is so much draw on the electrical stuff. We have computers, radios, video equipment.
And all that stuff is on?
All that stuff has to stay
drain the
on.
battery in a hurry.
And it would,
Well, no, if there's nobody in the vehicle, I don't know why it would be on.
because if we go to get in that vehicle, we have to have that ready. And
Okay.
most of this stuff, even our computers, we get frustrated because if we're here for 2 hours doing something or something, even out on the road, and we don't do anything on our computer, it automatically shuts down and we have to log back on again.
I got it. Okay.
So,
Them
it-
damn computers.
That's a good way to put it. I remember turning on the radios and letting the bulbs warm up, so.
I remember I had to light a candle to see the speedometer.
Here we go.
Okay,
So we need a motion for
we need a
that?
motion to approve that.
So moved.
Second by Mr. Malik, I guess. I was gonna give it to Duff this time.
Three for three.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Sinkwitz.
Yes.
Medrow.
Yes.
Demont.
Yes.
Duff.
Yes.
Malik.
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
York.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, set topics for the December 26th work session.
I would
which
make a
don't-
motion
I
that we
really don't
don't
believe
have.
we have anything.
I
I
would
would
make a
second
motion
that.
that be canceled.
I'll agree with that. It's a motion by Sinkowitz and
I'll second.
second by Duff.
Now, why wouldn't we want to be here the day after?
I tell you what, come on
I don't think
by.
there's anything
You're welcome to
majorly
come
pressing
in.
for that time of year, so. All in favor?
Somebody's.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I don't believe we have any other pending business. Update from Chief Ellsworth.
Real quick, I want to address something that Mr. Scott brought to my attention regarding some of the numbers. They seem a little skewed. One of them was the Watercraft Complaints. When we,
Columbus report.
in my Clemens reports, we really hit it hard, and I know those of you that live on the lake or been out on the lake understand or see the difference this year compared to last year as far as enforcement. The complaints are documented when we make a stop or when someone calls in and makes a complaint. We made a lot of stops this year. We wrote 31 citations out there and made a couple of arrests out there this summer. That is the enforcement that I expect. That's not, it goes back to when I was out there many moons ago. People that deserve tickets got tickets, not, just don't do that again, and then 10 minutes later, they were back doing it again. We're not going to do that. I've instructed the officers out there to enforce the law. They're better educated now. They went through the Marine Academy, and they're very confident in what they're doing, and I'm going to send one more to the Marine Academy this spring. So that's the increase in numbers for watercraft complaints. Regarding the traffic stops or the traffic complaints, those are up because I have some very young, aggressive officers that are actually out there on the road doing things. We are actually getting back to the numbers we were probably in the late 90s, early 2000s. During the downturn, and I think there were a lot of complacent officers. My officers are young, they're aggressive, but they're not overly aggressive. We're not writing every one of those stops. Probably, it might figure out that about 50% of those, maybe 60% of those stopped get citations. Me included, I go out and I still write citations. And you can see, I think you get a printout of the officers that are out writing.
Yep.
So you can see that they have really increased over the past few years, which is, I guess, a good thing. But if you look at our accidents, they've dropped down to the basement. It's because we're enforcing the law, they're doing the right things. And I would like to say, I'd give kudos to my officers for out there doing that.
As far
Yeah,
as,
was
as
that-
far as the Marine Patrol goes, living where I'm at, close to the Axis, and I'm sure you get your share of
Sure, we get plenty,
too,
yeah.
Mr. President, but they're doing a fine job. I'm pulling people over, and I had one person come over, and he said, I got chewed out, but I didn't get a ticket. And he was right. So I learned something, and
Well, that's,
they're a good bunch of guys out there, and they're
yep,
really doing a
and
fine
that's what,
job.
that's what they're there to do.
Yep.
We're not out there to be like a Gestapo and put a stop to anybody's fun, but we are out there to educate, and we educate, and if they don't learn the first time, we learn
Yep.
them the second time, so.
Yeah. That was actually the context that I wanted to put it in, because as I go through the reports, and there are a lot of categories, in general, everything was falling off the map.
Mhm.
And yet the overall totals for the groups was up 20%.
Mhm.
And that's why
That's
I
why
wanted
the
you to comment,
enforcement-
because we're seeing the enforcement.
The
and
enforcement
results
action
of the
is
enforcement.
resulting in the compliance,
Okay.
which,
I think the public
that's
needs
why
to
we
know
are
that.
here.
Yeah.
So,
Thank
and if
you.
you have any questions, if you ever have any questions or concerns or something, there are going to be outliers sometimes
Oh, sure.
when we have such small numbers. But, if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask, and I'm glad you brought that up because it gives me a chance to tell you what a great job my officers are really doing. So.
And I know your elbow hurts.
That's right. Yep.
But
No, I
think
really
the
do.
public needs to know that.
I talked to Chief George today, and we had a conversation about the department as it stands, and I am very pleased with every officer that's here. They are doing a fantastic job, and they're doing exactly what they should be doing, and I appreciate that.
It makes a difference with the leadership they have, too.
Nathan was Nathan was a great leader, for sure. No, I appreciate that. But like I said, these guys really do a good job.
On the subject that we've touched on, do we have like a sinking fund or a fund to, if we have to replace the boat in the next couple of years?
I think it's part of my 5-year forecast that I give to the treasurer / administrator. We're starting to get to that point. It's 18 years old.
Yep.
We've taken very good care of it, and it really shows. And I'm not afraid to use that boat in the least bit, like the 1974 Slick Craft that I had when I got here.
That was slick, all right.
It was. But I think over the next couple of years, we're going to start focusing on a type of a particular watercraft we're going to get. It's going to be similar to what we have now. We really think that center console is the best way to go.
Yeah.
And we would like something with a little more,
Oomph.
little more storage room. Because there are certain things we'd like to be able to leave on there, be able to lock up. And we can't do that with the current boat. And but again, it's in the 5-year forecast.
Good.
We're going to start looking at things like that. So
Great.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess next we'll go to update from our treasurer.
Mr. President, I was asked by Frank Walsh, our headhunter, our consultant on replacing the administrator position, to kind of update you with some information. I'll read it kind of briefly here. The deadline, as you recall, is this Friday, the 14th. He says he's been promoting a beautiful community, unified or united village council, and talented staff to potential candidates. He's got 44 applications. He said he expected to receive between 30 and 35. And at this point, he is working with 11 or 12 top candidates for preliminary phone interviews that will take place starting next week. He'll present to us the top 8 to 10 candidates for review, remember, on January 9th. That's the way we're set up right now, before the meeting at 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And then after council selects the final 4 or 5, we'll set up interviews for 2 weeks hence after that, so that would be January 23rd. And he says he's pleased with the response, and we'll see. So there you go.
That's great.
That's all I got.
Is that the treasurer's report, or was that the administrator?
That was it. Well,
I was gonna go to the administrator next, but.
Well, he's got to sit in that seat. You got to move.
no, I just got, I'll be in touch with Mr. Scott, and I'm not sure, Brian, if you have to sign anything different with the
Okay.
bank.
Yeah.
But
As far as signatories.
you're there as pro tem, not as president. They may have
Right, yeah,
an issue
that's
with that.
fine.
We'll see.
Okay. You're done on both fronts
I'm
now?
done on both.
Okay. Council comments. Start Mr. Scott.
Have a great Christmas. Celebration of the holidays, however one moves down that track.
I'll second that.
Ed?
Happy holidays, a Merry Christmas, and everybody be safe. And it looks like ice, but it's not. Stay off the lake.
I was gonna mention that too.
Yeah.
I saw a guy out ice fishing
Come on.
Yep.
halfway down Laguna,
Halfway down.
about 150 feet off of shore. Tonight, this afternoon. He's out there with a light right now, so.
Well,
Yeah.
it's an inch thick.
Bob?
Happy holidays, but also one other thing I'd like to comment on. I believe it was back in October, we put in for the stakes to mark property lines. We ordered X amount, and I guess they were gone in a day.
Day and a half.
Yeah, so I mean, we'll have to wait for the DPW's reports as to how they were put up and if they did, keep the neighborhood people happy
Right.
as to, not having their lawns tore up or anything else. So
Pardon me, what was that?
Snowfall, I think.
Those,
the orange stakes that
we
you
have
put
them
in.
here now.
No, they're gone.
Oh,
They were gone in a day.
My wife picked up 4, but I can't get them in the ground, so. I'm
take
waiting
a
for it to thaw this
screwdriver.
weekend.
Take your screwdriver, knock
No,
it
you
down.
get a
drill it.
long drill.
Yeah, I'll
Take a
drill it if I
drill.
have to.
But anyways, I just want to make comment on that they did go very fast. We put out an email, and we'll have to wait to see what the police and DPW report back after the season. if it was worth the investment or not.
Is there a need to get more?
I don't think we should at this point,
Okay.
how
well,
they
because you
it's not
can't
a
put them
big
in the
expense.
ground. You know, like you had mentioned, and let's wait and see what transpires after
See how they
winter.
work.
So for the new guy, was that to help residents that complained about their yards being torn up? Yes.
Well, yeah, and I was the one who brought it to council, and I said that people have to realize there has to be some room to push. So I think we agreed that
Yeah,
your
6 to
stake
12
should be a
inches
foot
is,
off the pavement, and they're flexible enough that, it could be a target, but more than likely, it's just to give them something.
like I
how they
said, I
work.
just wanted to make comment because they did go fast, and we'll see if the response is.
I'm sure
from-
we're gonna have snow this year, so.
Yeah, eventually. But that's it. Have great holidays, folks.
Duff?
Happy holidays, everybody be safe. That's it.
Merry Christmas. See you next year.
And I'm the same. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everybody, and have a very safe and happy holiday season.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Second? Motion second, second by Duff.
Understand.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We're-
You got that.
Just to see.
Get there.